Of
I'm so
course.
excited to have you here.
Thanks for having me. I'm
Yeah,
excited.
yeah. Yeah, it's so fun seeing you in like day to day cute instead of like glammed out cute. And it always throws me off. Like, same
Right.
when Miss Marquez came on, I was like, whoa, you know?
Wait, did she wear green?
She did. She
Okay.
did. And I love that you still have like the red going on. Like, she actually, I think she wore leopard print.
Okay. That's still on brand for Marquez,
It's
though, I think.
very on brand
Yeah.
for her. But
Yeah.
because of the green hair, I always am just like, to me, she just is green.
Yeah.
But in the same way, I feel like you are red.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I love how you guys really have your like staple colors, you know? But you do pink and white too.
Yeah, I do a lot of different colors,
Mhm.
but I feel like I'm kind of starting to lean towards maybe I should to lean towards burgundy costumes.
Yeah, I mean, it's a statement, you
I feel like
know?
it is too.
Yeah, especially with the hair color.
Yeah. And
It
then like the
just
name, I feel like it like works.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know.
that's true too.
But it is nice to have the freedom to like do whatever.
Yeah. I don't think I
I
could
don't know.
ever do like one color.
Get bored.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
just got to change it up, you know? And that's why I feel like even my apartment, I would love to be one of those like cute Instagram girls, but I
Like
just
the
see things and
minimalist, like
yeah.
beige.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Little bohemian chic kind of.
Same.
But then I see things at the store, I'm like, oh, that's cute. Doesn't match anything I have, but it's so cute.
Yeah. Well, I love your place. I think it's great.
you. Thank
Yeah, you
you.
should see my place. It's like full of knickknacks. There's just stuff everywhere.
Yeah, I feel like that's very like artist.
Yes. Yeah. No matter how much I try to be like
Uh-huh.
cool girl, like
Yeah.
aesthetic
Yeah.
minimalist beige, no matter how much I try, there's just shit
Too
everywhere.
hard.
Yeah.
It's too hard. Yeah, I
Always.
usually have a pole right in the middle of the living room also.
I was actually wondering like where is
Where's
that
the
pole?
Yeah, I had a show, so it's all packaged up.
Okay.
And then for a while I was like, I kind of just want a living room for a second. Like fully
Mm.
a live I mean, I say fully a living room and there's one couch and the rest is empty.
Wait, do you not watch TV?
I don't. There's no I have not had a TV ever. Like other than when I was living
What?
with my parents as a kid, but I've never owned my own TV.
Wait, so is that like a choice?
It's a choice. It
Okay.
was like I think it started out like I couldn't afford a TV, and then I could, and then I almost got one, and then I was like, no, I want to stay focused, and like if I have a TV, I feel like it's just a reason to relax. And then once I kind of like made it and was like, oh, like there's always a hustle, but like I'm established now to where I'm not like auditioning or hunting for work. Um, then I was like, I could totally get a TV. Like I'm in a place where I could. And then I just kind of didn't. And
Yeah.
I've always kind of been like, well, once I'm like really settled, like maybe like when I like have a boyfriend move in, maybe that's when I'll get a TV, you know,
Yeah.
because then I'll kind of give myself the freedom to like relax.
Sure. Yeah.
But I do feel like it's coming to that point where it's like, well, so you deserve a TV. Like, you
Yeah.
can chill.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Take a breath.
Yeah, I know. I need
Respect
to.
though. That's
Yeah.
like I'm very impressed by that. I mean, I have a TV in the living room, a TV in the bedroom, and then when those aren't on, I feel like I'm distracted by TikTok or
Oh,
Instagram.
yeah. Yeah,
So I
for
feel like
sure.
the less screens, the better. I'm kind of
Yeah.
inspired. I just
Yeah.
kind of want to throw all my TVs in the trash right now.
Oh my gosh. I do watch on my little iPad though,
Okay.
you know, so
Yeah.
I do have like Netflix and stuff.
Yeah.
But I think too, I was traveling for so long that, and my homes were always like little crash pads. So this is like the most furniture I've ever
My
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah, like my place in Miami was so bare. But I think I always knew I wasn't going to stay there, you know?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like how we were just talking about how you like to move every couple of years and
Yeah.
now you've been like kind of nesting and you're starting to feel like the itch to go like
Yeah.
I think it's a big like artist thing too. We like to
Yeah.
change it up. It's hard to stay consistent.
Hmm.
But you've been living here in LA for like 5 years now, or
No,
longer.
since 2013. So
Oh my God.
a
Okay.
while.
Yeah, more than a decade.
Yeah.
Where are you from originally?
Arizona.
Okay, so not too far.
Yeah.
What's your origin story? Like what made you be like, I'm gonna be a dancer in Hollywood?
Ooh, I always grew up dancing.
Okay.
I started when I was like 2, and that was very much
Okay.
a me thing. No one in my family is a performer or is into that world at
Mhm.
all. Even when I like started doing dance, my mom tells me that she was like, oh my God, like, because
Really?
everyone in my family is like so sports and
Oh my God.
just not really into the arts at all.
Okay.
With the exception of my uncle, but he was adopted, so I feel like it's
Okay.
I feel like within like
Yeah.
the bloodline, it's
Yeah.
just like not. But my dad was my brother's like baseball coach. He's still a
Wow.
baseball coach at the high school.
Mhm.
My sister did softball. My dad was her softball coach. My
Oh,
brother did.
funny.
My dad did basketball, baseball. My mom did soccer. My brother did every sport. My sister was like a big softball star. And
Oh,
so then
wow.
me doing dance was like very like just kind of everyone was
Out
like,
of
what?
pocket. Oh
And
my
what an
gosh.
expensive hobby.
Yeah.
Um, so
Oh
I
my
did like
gosh.
dance competition, all that stuff, all through high school.
Mhm.
Loved dance. But I think I kind of never had the confidence to really lean in and be like, I want this. And I think I also had in the back of my head just like my parents, the voice of my parents being like, that's not a real job
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
And college was always very much like just an expectation, just like
Mm.
it was never not an it was never an option. It was just
Okay.
like that's what you do after high school. You go
Yeah.
to college. And I was the first in my family to graduate from college,
Oh
and
wow.
it was always just like this very like this you have to get a real job and go to college. I never really like mentally was very like I'm a dancer, I'm meant to be a dancer, I'm going to do
Mm.
this. I always had like the that little voice in the back of my brain saying like no, it's not a real job, you can't do it, you're not good enough, just
Mm.
always. And I was always like I guess an artist in general because I did art all through high school and like always loved like physical art, like visual art.
Okay.
And I did a lot of art in high school, and then my art teacher was like, you know what you need to do? You need to go to school for illustration.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, yeah, I like doing art. Okay, she says I can do this. I haven't really had anyone tell me like this is what you're meant to do, and I felt like I was looking for that guidance
Yeah.
of like what I'm gonna do next because all I had was my parents in my ear through high school being like, you have to go to college, you have to go to college. So I'm just like
Yeah.
stressing out, what am I gonna go to college for?
Yeah.
If I had the rest of my life
Yeah.
before
So
I'm
much pressure.
17,
Yeah. Yeah.
the fuck?
Yeah.
So
Oh my
I
God.
ended up applying to a bunch of visual art schools because for some reason my parents were like, that's more of a real
Oh, how
person job than like
funny.
dancing. And I think it was
Interesting.
because I mean, I know my mom was very much like, well, you could go into art therapy and you could
Oh,
be
okay.
you could go into teaching at elementary schools or
Mm.
like high school art and all, there's different avenues.
Yeah.
So they were more accepting of that idea.
Mm.
And I ended up getting a really great scholarship for illustration to University of the Arts in Philadelphia.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and I was like very surprised. It was like a great opportunity, and it's a really good, or it was a really good illustration school. And I ended up going there, and I got burnt out super fast. It
Oh.
was like within like the first it was like a year and a half.
Okay.
I realized how much I was missing dance
Oh
and
wow.
performing,
Mm.
and I got really burnt out on the technical visual art. It was all very
Oh.
like I mean we were just doing like anatomy of like everything to scale, every bone of the body, and like
Very non-artistic.
Yes, it was very non-artistic. But I mean, it all has value, but it just made me realize that like I don't think I love this. And if I'm gonna go into an art form, it's like just as hard as any other art form. I want to
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
And I was taking dance classes like here and there at college. I was just like dropping into classes because like the professors would let me, and the professors would be like, "Why aren't you a dance major?
Oh,
Why
how
aren't you a dance major?"
funny.
And got that voice going in my head. And I think being away from dance for that amount of time made me realize how much I loved it.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
I think I like wouldn't let myself accept how much I loved it and how much I wanted it
Yeah.
until I was away from it. And then I kind of just got this mentality of like, if I don't try now, I'll always wonder.
Yeah.
So, and
totally.
I fear living with any amount of regret.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I auditioned for the dance department.
Okay.
I didn't tell my parents.
Oh my god.
I got in,
Oh wow.
and they transferred my scholarship over.
Oh my god.
So I was like, great, it's not gonna change anything. Like it's fine. So once it was all like said and done, then I called my parents.
Oh my god.
And I was like, sorry. I was like so scared about it, felt so guilty.
Oh wow.
My parents were like, okay. And my mom told me like many years later that she like kind of had a moment with that, like freaking out.
Yeah.
And my dad had to be like, listen, you've been trying to fight this her whole life. Clearly this is like what she wants to do, and that's what she's gonna do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
definitely.
I ended up going to school for dance, and then
Wow.
and that was in Philadelphia. So I did the East Coast thing, kind of. Spent some time in New York. I studied abroad in South Korea, doing dance, and then once I graduated from University of the Arts, came out here.
Okay.
Realized that maybe the East Coast thing wasn't so much my vibe. At that time, like
Very
Lady
different.
Gaga was like popping off, and like that kind of dance was like hitting. I was like, oh my god, I could be a jazz dancer, but like in a commercial world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because everything on the East Coast is so like company work.
Yeah.
Or Broadway.
Definitely.
At least at the time. I think there's more commercial opportunities there now. But yeah, at the time I was like, well, I want to make money.
Yeah. Totally.
Like
who doesn't?
I don't really want to like starve or like, like slit my wrists or like to be in like a dance company that travels around, and I never really have like my own ownership of my life fully. Or at least that's like kind of the impression I got from people who are company dancers, was like they're kind of just giving their life to like this choreographer, and like that's awesome for someone, but it just wasn't what I was looking for.
Yeah.
And then Broadway, I struggle with the singing.
Oh.
I struggle.
Oh my god.
I took voice lessons in college, and I was like in a spot where I was like, I feel really good. I feel like voice lessons in college, and I was like in a spot where I was like, I feel really good. I feel like I got this. And then went into a callback for Rock of Ages, and then my whole throat just like tightened up. And after that, I was like, that's it. I'm moving to LA.
Oh my gosh.
But I am back in voice lessons now, like 10 years later.
Love that.
Trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Because it's something that I want to overcome for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
It's one of those things. Are you a singer at all?
Girl, I wish. I did take a couple lessons recently.
Yeah.
Do you know Lindsay? She's one of the singers at Main Row.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, well, she's a singer in one of my shows.
Okay.
But I like asked her for some singing lessons, so because it's my number one fear. Like hang from the ceiling, light myself on fire, no fear. Singing,
same,
terrifying.
Yeah.
I did a couple lessons with her, and then I did sing a little section in a burlesque show I did recently. Yeah.
Oh my god.
It was terrible. But I was like, I just need to do it. Yeah. So like I like overcome the fear.
Yeah.
And I did it with the same company that I did my first burlesque show with. And I
Oh.
remember when I did my first burlesque, girl, oh my God, I did a belly dance act
Okay.
and I did a hip hop act. And I just
A
remember
hip hop
a
burlesque
hip-
act.
Yes.
Okay. I feel like every time. I mean, I'm speaking for myself and for like a lot of like the veterans that I know. Like, I feel like we all did the most out of pocket shit for our first burlesque act. Like the most like risky, out there things. I'm like, why are we doing the most?
Yeah. Like,
Now we're just like showing up, like
yeah, and the least, just like
doing the least.
gems, walk around a little.
And I feel like you learn
Yeah,
as you
have
go.
to find. And that's the interesting thing about burlesque that I love so much is that it really is so much about the confidence more than any. I mean,
Oh yeah.
well, you've seen me. I love all the tricks and the wows and all of
Yeah.
that, and like, and I'm crazy, but the core of burlesque is really just the confidence and the energy.
Yeah.
And I think that's why when we do our first burlesque act, it's always this like crazy, frantic, going way over the top, doing something way technical. I remember I had on leather pants also. So I'm doing this hip hop act and I'm trying to like get these leather pants.
Not even tearaway, like
Not even, yeah. It was so bad. I remember it like just shaking on stage.
oh.
But they were also supportive. So I was like, well, this is the right place to crash and burn. And I kind of want to just do it.
Yeah.
So that way it's done. And then like I can improve and watch myself improve. So, and
I feel like also like within the burlesque world is like probably a good place to start with like adding in the vocal stuff because you're already leaning into that character that's confident.
Yeah.
And if you can just like trick yourself
yeah.
into believing you're confident
yeah.
enough to sing on stage. I feel like
That's
that's
how I started dancing.
90% of the battle.
Yeah,
It's like
totally.
you can sing great in the shower, most people, I feel
Yeah.
like, and then you get on stage and
Yeah, you just got to pretend you're somebody else. And
yeah.
that's where my coach is so good because she's a performer too. And she's like, we're not going to work on the technical with you. We're going to focus on the performance aspect because that's your goal anyway. And like, you just have to learn to tap into that same character and pretend you're doing it. And then over time, you'll be able to. But I'll tell you, I got up there and I heard myself on the mic and I was like, oh my God, this sounds terrible. Because when you know when you like hear yourself, you hear it from your own like head.
Yeah.
But then when you watch yourself back or when you hear yourself back and you're hearing what you actually sound like, it's like, oh my God.
And then it's happening in real time to the monitors.
And I couldn't find it and it just sounded so different. But thankfully, it was only 30 seconds. So as soon as it was over, I'm like, all right, I just really have to crush it now. So I'm like ripping off my clothes, flinging my hair around, throwing in extra flips. And I'm like, well, they'll forget about it.
And that's
the
what they
rest.
remember.
Yeah. I did have one person come up to me though, because it's a bunch of like old men in that show watching. And so I did have this one man come up to me and he was like, oh yeah, you were great. Wait, but were you the one that sang? Oh yeah, you can't sing, but you know, talk to your coach and work on this and that and you'll get there.
What a nightmare. What a nightmare.
I know.
Sir.
I was like,
Sir, you could have just been quiet. You did not have to say that.
God.
Oh my God.
I do appreciate honesty though.
Sure.
Everyone else was like, oh, you're such a good dancer. It's like, I know I'm a good dancer. I know I crush it. But the fact that everyone was kind of like not acknowledging it, I kind of almost appreciated that he just straight out was like, yeah, you need to work on that. Like,
just address the elephant in the room.
Yeah, it's like at least just said it because, you know, I don't know. I almost feel worse if everyone's just like ignoring it. You know?
You were on stage.
Yeah.
You really were up there.
So, well, at least I know it wasn't great. But I did it. And
yeah, you should feel great about that because there's people
it's a
who
huge
think
fear.
about doing something their whole lives and never fucking just do it. And you have to, I mean, as we know from like burlesque, from anything, you have to like start somewhere. You have to crash and burn.
It's so true. Like my first burlesque, act was terrible. Even my first aerial act was bad, but that's the only way to improve is to just keep doing it.
Yeah.
I meet a lot of people who they're like, you know, they'll work on an act for years, and they'll always be like, it's not ready yet, it's not ready yet, it's not ready yet. And like when I did my first act, I didn't rehearse anything. I was like, well, I'm just gonna go there and do it.
Yeah.
Like, and I've always been one to be like, I'm just gonna crash and burn, because eventually I'm gonna fly.
Mhm.
If I just I'll just get a little higher every time, and eventually I'll be soaring. And it's worked for me with everything in life. Like, I just go for it, and it's not great at the start, but I just keep on doing it, and I push past the embarrassment and the discomfort and, you know, the, oh God, why did I do that cringe moments?
Yeah.
But, you know, now I have a full career because I went for it, you know.
Something's working.
So,
Yeah.
you kind of just have to go for it. Sorry. This is a somewhat unconventional belief, but like, it's a very common thing that people are like, okay, you go to school, you go to college, you get a job, you get married,
Yeah.
you have kids, you have grandkids, you die. That's like the formula for life.
Mm-hmm.
I think college is a great thing, but I do feel like it is such a scam on some level also.
Yeah.
Because it is so much money, and it's like you were saying, you were 17 and you were like, I don't know what I want to do with my life.
Yeah.
And this is what happens for most kids, is they have no idea what they want to do. They get into tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt, constantly switching majors, and then eventually get a job where they're not even using their degree. And my belief is, you know, college is a good thing, but it's better to do when you're older, when you know what you want to do.
Yeah.
And you have a set, like, this is what I'm going for because I figured my life out more, versus when you're a kid and you have no idea, you haven't lived yet. So, you know, how do you feel? I mean, you're using, because you majored in dance,
Mhm.
right? How do you feel? Like, do you think?
I think about this a lot, but I don't regret my time in college. I had so much fun.
Yeah.
I feel like I did grow up and learn some things,
Mhm.
but at the same time, like, I don't think it benefited my dance career at all. I don't think any of my, I don't feel like any of like my training, none of it, no connections. Like
Wow.
it, especially for what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I really don't think it benefited my career at all.
Oh my gosh.
But I will say, I don't think I would have done as well if I just moved straight out to LA either.
Okay, interesting.
I feel like I needed that time to kind of grow up. So what do you do with that time? I don't know. And I am coming from like a place of privilege where like I did have a college fund and I did have a scholarship.
Yeah.
So I wasn't like buried in debt after school.
That's great.
And I didn't have to like kill myself working a bunch of jobs during college. So I was able to have fun. Like I had a job. I worked at Johnny Rockets. It was horrible. But you know, I didn't have that like grueling college experience.
Yeah, definitely.
It was mostly fun. And it was art school.
Great. Yeah.
You know? It was a lot of like partying and socializing and growing up and just kind of like learning to be an adult, I guess. So I feel like I can't regret that time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, ooh, I don't know. What would have things looked like if I just moved straight to LA and put that time, money, and energy into just taking classes at Millennium or the Edge?
Yeah.
Which were the places when I first moved here.
Yeah. Yeah, the Edge is gone now, right?
Yeah, the Edge is gone. Millennium moved. There's all these new places now. But yeah, sometimes I wonder, because there are like so many up and coming dancers who move out here when they're 18.
Yeah.
They are able, their parents are just paying for them to live here and take class and build those connections with like people who are actually going to hire them.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like if I were able to do that, that would have been really beneficial. I don't know if I was mature enough to do that either. I think I needed to get the party out of my system a bit too.
I mean, yeah,
so I don't know.
still is like living life and growing up to do.
Yeah, but sometimes I wonder.
Yeah. I went to college also.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I was blessed because my mom worked at the university I ended up going to.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so I got a free ride, which was great. But I did see a lot of kids who didn't get that, obviously, and were in a lot of debt. But it's crazy. My dream was to always go to Princeton because my dad's from China, so that was like you go to an Ivy League. And I actually got an interview with them, which is pretty good
That's
to
amazing.
get that far. But it was so funny because in the interview, all I could talk about was their dance program. And looking back now, I'm like, what a huge sign. Like, no wonder I didn't get it. But I went to college and I got a free ride and I got my degree in business administration, which is
Wow.
so different, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, in some ways, it was really helpful because as an artist, we're negotiating, we're budgeting, we are running our own business and our business is ourselves. We're constantly
Yeah.
selling ourselves. We're constantly marketing for ourselves. So it wasn't like a waste, but also nothing that I learned in college helped me with my career at all.
Yeah.
But I think that's a great point, is that it is kind of a weird filler space where you have to figure yourself out. And it is kind of a structured thing where you are like, like getting to know yourself while like finding yourself. And that is important time. I just feel so bad for the people who spend so much money and get in so much debt so young.
I know, it's horrible.
It's wild. It's wild to think about.
And no one once has ever asked me for my degree.
Yeah.
Or asked if I've gone to college. No one cares.
Yeah. Well, especially in our world, like, you don't need a degree here. I could not imagine getting a dance degree because with everything I know about the industry, it would not benefit me at all.
No.
At all. As you said, it hasn't.
Not at all.
So crazy. So when you came out here, were you going into commercial dance initially?
That was the goal.
Okay.
Yeah. But it was so hard to finally be, I was like on my own, having to like hustle and work and pay my own rent and all of that stuff, which I'd started to do in Philly. But once I was out of school, it was just, I didn't have any help at all. And moving out to LA and everything, it was a lot. I felt like I could barely keep my head above water.
Yeah.
So, my last $10 was to go take one edge class a week,
Wow, yeah.
So I was in a different position than people coming in with like that help, and being able to just like focus on making those connections, dancing, just taking class.
Yeah.
I was focusing on like, oh my God, I need to get another serving job because this one isn't paying the bills enough. And but then when I am finally off work, I'm too exhausted to do the things that I need to be doing, or I don't have enough like spare money to go take class. So I feel like I spent a lot of time in that mode of just survival mode, where I wasn't even able to focus on like craft or building connections or anything. So I do wonder if I spent that time like not in college and doing that instead, spending that money on that instead.
Yeah.
But so I started slowly building my career over the years, but it took a long time to feel like I had my footing and I felt like stable enough.
Yeah.
And I felt like, I got different opportunities over the years that were great within the commercial world, but they were very like far and few between, and so random, and not like my expectation of what I was going to be doing. I was like wanting to go on tour with Lady Gaga, I wanted to do things like that. And the things that were clicking were not my expectation. And I think it took me a while to just kind of lean into what was working for me.
Okay.
And I think once I started accepting what works for me, the happier I got, the more successful I got.
Definitely.
And I feel like trying to fit into a mold of this like person in the dance industry that looks a certain way, acts a certain way, dances a certain way.
Yeah.
I think it just always felt like trying to fit like a square peg in a round hole, where it was like, it's almost there. Something's not quite working. Like it wasn't like authentic enough, or I don't know. I mean, I did things that I'm like proud of and excited about, but I think leaning into what is working for me and going on these like kind of side quests in my career has been honestly probably more fun in the end anyways.
Totally.
And I've really enjoyed like learning burlesque and starting to do like acting and all these other different things where it's like still the same field, but not my initial expectation of what I had for myself. But it took me a while to kind of learn to be okay with that.
Definitely. Yeah, I feel like when I first came out here, I really wanted to be a commercial dancer, you know, and my background was in gymnastics, so commercial dance is very, you have to look like everybody. And I've never, just in all aspects of my life, have been able to look like everybody, you know? And I had a similar thing where, like, you know, I didn't come with any help. Like, I was estranged from my family at the time, and I was actually running away from a divorce. And so I was like, you know, that same trying to survive and like make money, but also like, I will never forget, I was like on my way to a show and I got this super threatening text message from my ex-husband, because he had, after I tricked him into a divorce, I took my dog and I ran and I tricked him and he lost it. We both lost it because we met when we were kids. So, you know, we were like the love of each other's lives, and we were trying to survive together because we both had these super traumatic pasts that we were running from.
Okay.
And so when we split, like, he went off the rails and I also went off the rails, and I went from being this very like good, sweet Christian good girl to like dyeing my hair blue. You know, now I'm taking my bra off and like I'm in pasties on stage.
This is crazy.
My hometown was like, what the fuck? Because initially, like when I was in high school, I was like in church in front of like hundreds of people, like preaching, you know? And now I'm like, woo! And they were like, what the hell happened?
Everyone's at your church like, I'm really worried about Alyssa.
Yeah,
Did you see her post? Her hair is blue.
I got some like crazy messages from them too.
Really?
And, yeah, I had older women who knew me when I was like in 6th grade sending me like just mean messages, and I would cry and I'd be like, oh my God, like, and here I'm going through this traumatic divorce, and like, it was rough. Yeah. And so I always tell people though, like, burlesque saved my life because the reality was I've never actually been hit, thankfully. But I've been through a lot of like verbal, mental, and emotional abuse. Yeah. And like that takes a toll on your mind, obviously. Yeah. And so burlesque, like, it gave me this confidence. I'll never forget my first burlesque show. It was this like metal rock and roll show, and I had just been hired by the Dame de Villes with Harley, so I knew who Harley was, and you know, I had auditioned for her, and she was like, I'd love to have you, but we go down to pasties, like, you have to. And people had already known from the Dollface Dames that I was like, I'm not going to do pasties. I'm just here to like try to practice circus. So she was like, I would love to have you, but there's no point in you being here if you're not going to go down to pasties. So my first burlesque show, it was the first time I was going to go down to pasties. This is different from the other burlesque show because I didn't go down to pasties for that one. And Harley was there just watching. So I had all these nerves, and I was like, oh my God, Harley's out there.
Oh my God.
And, you know, her company's all like blood and like, you know,
Yeah.
I don't want to say like devil, but like devil.
I mean, it's the damn devil.
Yeah.
You can say it.
Yeah, I guess so. Like, the devil.
But yeah, that's pretty hardcore.
It
to go
is.
from like not doing pasties to going right into damn devils. It's pretty hardcore.
Yeah, and so she had just hired me, so I felt like I had to prove to her that like I could keep up. And you know, here I'm like getting these threatening messages from my ex-husband. Like I was on my way to a burlesque show and got the message from him, and I remember walking into the security and being like, if you see this person, please don't let him in, because I was actually scared. But anyways, so for this show, I had all this like pent up, I don't even know if I want to call it rage, but just all this like, I'm tired of being abused. I'm tired of like serving the man when the man is not treating me well. And, you know, like I love men to this day. I love men. But, you know, all the men in my life up till then, primarily like my dad and my ex-husband, who were supposed to protect me, were hurting me. Maybe not quite physically, but mentally definitely. And, you know, the physical I could tell was around the corner. And so there was just all this pent up of, I'm tired of being this abused girl. Like I'm a strong girl and I've been carrying the weight on my back of like trying to uplift these men to help them be okay, because they're angry all the time, they're sad all the time, and I'm carrying their emotions trying to make them be okay. And that's not my job. And so I just remember like shutting my eyes before this show and like taking a deep breath. And the song was Rob Zombie's Living Dead Girl.
Hell fucking yeah.
You know, I just dyed my hair red.
Yeah.
I just shut my eyes, and when I opened them, this alter ego took over. And I had never met her before, but she was just this totally different person. And I just stepped out on stage and I blacked out. And I just remember creating this alter ego that I call Alicia. And she just took over, you know? And then the top came off, the pasties came out, and I had all these like old men around me, like rock and roll metalheads. And I just had this moment of being like close to naked and just being like, I'm in control of this whole room. Like not a single person here would dare touch me. And like I have like this powerful energy that I've never felt before. And like even though I'm barely wearing anything and I'm tiny and there's all these giant men around me, like I'm in control. And I need to say the word and they'll do whatever I want. And that feeling was the most incredible feeling in the world. Then I became high on it and I became a sex addict. And the alter ego took over, and I had to do like 3 years of therapy to like get back to being normal. You know, that's my whole like trauma journey. But it was the most like empowering thing. You know, of course I went overboard, and I don't recommend becoming a sex addict. But burlesque did save my life. And I do think as a woman, sex is powerful. And if you can find that proper balance of like, my sexuality gives me power to stand strong and to set my boundaries and to say no and to stop abuse for myself and others, that's a really important place to be in. You know, you don't want to get carried away to where you use sex as a weapon or become addicted to it. But, you know, if you can find that power, it's so powerful. And I guarantee you that one of these reels will get a lot of hate, because as I've started this podcast, I've noticed there are so many men in America, especially in this day and age, who want to shut that down and who want to be like, well, you know, they want to shame a woman being sexual. They want to, you know, no, your spot is in the kitchen. You know, like you're not allowed to like rise up and like, oh, you're just using sex as power, or like, oh, you're a manipulative, terrible person. Like, go back to being the little submissive girl that's going to listen to us unquestioningly. And that's a mentality that is my goal to break in all of America. But, you know, I think it is important that people realize like women can be strong and empowered while being an equal to a man and being a partner to a man. And like, I think, you know, I'm a believer that a man should be the head of the household. And I love a man that will lead. I love a man that will guide. I love a man, though, that makes me respect him into wanting to follow him. Whereas like, and that being, he listens to what I say too. You know, there is a conversation where we're both like uplifting and empowering each other, and I can support you. hey, okay. There's my girl getting all. She's protective.
Are you
now.
protecting us?
Yeah, she's like women empowerment.
You good girl.
Oh my god.
Having like a man be the leader of the household, like what do you mean by that? Like what do they lead? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you know, so I also come from a Christian background, Asian Christian background,
Okay.
separately too, not like in alignment.
Yeah.
So I do still have this very traditional mindset where, you know, I like, you know, I like when I walk down the street feeling like I have a man there who's going to protect and provide for me. You know, I like feeling like I can be in my feminine and kind of relax. Like, I don't have to be on edge, like, well, especially walking down Hollywood Boulevard, like, who's gonna jump out at me? Is this crazy person gonna jump at me? Is this man gonna come up and like follow me all the way home? But yeah, I love when I'm with a man who can kind of let me go into this like, oh, I'm baby now, you know, even though I'm obviously not.
Yeah, I feel like you're so like independent,
Yes,
and, like financially independent, and like all of these things. So, like to hear you be like, I want a man who can lead me. I'm like, what?
Yeah, nobody ever expects that. But that's just kind of it. It's like I know I am. I'm such a powerhouse that when it comes to being in a relationship, I do love that when I get to be in my personal life, I love to switch off and be like,
yeah.
And now I can relax. And now I know you've got me. And now I know I'm not doing it all alone. And like, I don't know that, I won't say I'll never, but I don't know that I could ever have a man pay for my bills. You know, I think I would always have to be 50-50. I love a man spoiling me and taking me out.
So when you say provider, you don't mean like provider.
No,
like,
I mean like, I like knowing that if I had an injury and couldn't work, you could provide for me.
Yeah.
Do I need you to actually provide for me? No. Would I want you to like fully provide for me? Honestly, no. But I like knowing that you can. I like knowing that if I have a month and I'm barely getting any work, I mean, of course, knowing me, I'm going to hustle anyway and I'll make work out of nothing.
Yeah.
But I like knowing that you can and that you would, and that something's not going to happen where you're just going to be sitting on my couch and now you're baby.
Yes.
Like, I don't like having a man that's like, oh, let me take care of you. I mean, I like being able to support you when you're going through a hard time, but I don't like, you know, oh, that's okay. You can just sit on my couch every day and do nothing and have no goals. And like, no, I'm not your mom or your dad. Like, so I like when I'm with a man who like allows my anxious system to settle.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
And I like a man that has direction and purpose. Like, I like a man who can be like, you know, we're working towards this, you know, we have this goal, like we're going to buy a house one day or whatever, you know, we're going to have a family.
So and like what you're describing to me, like in my brain, like that's just an equal partnership.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel like anyone's like, I feel like you're like leading each other. Like you're like just taking on the load together.
Yeah, exactly.
But I see what you mean too with like just wanting to feel like safe and like someone's gonna catch you if you fall and all of that. But like, I feel like it goes both ways, right?
Truly.
Yeah, I feel like that's super, super important. And I think like as long as you each like have agreed on your expectations, like there's no wrong way to do it. But I feel the same way about like, I mean, it is really nice to walk down the street and not feel like you're gonna die.
Which is crazy.
Yeah. I mean, my fiance is like a big, strong guy. And I've never been with a big, strong guy before.
Really?
Yeah, and I noticed the difference like right away.
Yeah.
Because in the past, like I would even have like partners where I would walk down the street with them and I would still get hit on, even with them like
Really?
right next to me. But my
Oh my
fiance,
God.
I think like has like a strong physical presence, but
Yeah.
also like just his vibe.
Yeah, that energy and confidence, just like burlesque.
Yeah.
Same thing for a man.
Yeah, and it does feel nice. Like I was going actually like 2 days ago, I was going to a coffee shop down the street from me.
Uh-huh.
So I was like walking from the car to go to the coffee shop, and like immediately as I get out of my car,
Yeah.
the car like slows down and is like driving right next to me, like talking at me through the window, pulls over, jumps out of the car, starts walking next to me, follows me all the way into the coffee shop. Like, and it was like I had forgotten. I was like, oh yeah, this is what it's like when I don't have him next to me.
Yeah.
But it had like the luxury of having him next to me.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Yeah.
So you don't have to deal with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a big difference.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've always been attracted to men who are that you just look at them and you just know they can fuck somebody up.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
But I think I could not be with somebody who can't, especially at this point in my life and in my career. There's no way. Like, and it's so important to me to be with a man who, one, can protect me, and two, teaches me to protect myself too. But I do love being with somebody who, when I'm with them, I can relax.
Yeah. But
it's crazy. Like, and I think that's something that, you know, maybe men don't always realize, is that it is scary being a girl. Unfortunately, there was one time I had a gig in downtown LA and I had to walk back to my car, and I had done like multiple shows that day. And so I had like my fishnets on, I had a little dress on my heels, and I was carrying like, I had like 2 bags. I had a canister of fire fuel and everything.
Oh yeah.
And I hate downtown. That's why I'm glad I don't have a car, because I don't even want to work down there.
I know, I hate working downtown.
Ugh, it's not my spot.
And I feel like it's such a vulnerable position to be in too, especially like before and after shows when you're carrying all this shit.
And you're tired.
I'm like, what am I gonna do if someone even attacks me? I have all this.
Yeah, girl. I'm always thinking. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna. Well, and that's why
expensive.
Yeah. I'm always like, you gotta leave it. But that's why I'm glad I always have the fire canister too. Yeah. But then I can't open it, but I can at least whack somebody with it.
Yeah.
But this time I was walking down the street. Nobody was on the street. It was completely empty. And this giant SUV starts driving by, and it starts slowing down. And like, I already know. Ugh. And it pulls over and stops between me and my car. And so I'm like, all right. I had this little military knife that my friend had given me, and it was on my keychain. So I slowed down and I stopped walking, and I looked directly into their side view mirror, and I just pulled the knife out and I opened it. And then I just stared at them and started walking towards them.
That's so hot.
They drove off so fast. And I was, and you know, and I think too, for me, after shows, I'm so tired, but also like I have that energy from slowing down, but I'm also at the point where I'm like, don't fuck with me. I want to get to bed.
Yeah.
Like, okay, we're going to play this game. Like, yeah. I know I'm tiny and maybe I'm going to lose, but like, I'm going to go down with a fight for sure. So, you know, and at that point,
I totally
know
what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, especially after shows, like I'm so on guard.
Yeah.
I feel like you're in such like that powerful position on stage.
Yeah.
You feel so empowered and like you can take on the world.
Yeah.
And then you gather up your belongings and start walking to your car, and then you're like this tiny little like insignificant little thing again, and it's like I feel like I'm more like triggered, and on edge,
totally,
and protective of myself. I feel like I say the most unhinged things.
Yes. Oh my God.
End of the night, walking to my car because I'm not dying tonight.
Yeah.
I don't care how psycho I look right now.
I've already done so much and given out so much energy for all these people, and already have all these men, whatever. It's like, it's exhausting. And I was just telling you, I recently got another threat of this fan, I guess, trying to blackmail me. and he threatened to come to one of my shows. And I'm really glad that I have an agency that handled the situation right away, because I was like, if I had handled it, I probably like would have been like, I fucking dare you. Fucking show up and see how this goes for you. Cause like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna fucking play this shit. I'm not gonna deal with it. I'm not. Like, at this point in my life, I've already dealt with this. I mean, look, I have an ex-husband who was an ex-felon who already going through that was enough. So it's like, I'm not dealing with it. In fact, after this, I don't know if I told you this. After this, I actually have my first jujitsu lesson.
Okay.
So at this point, I'm like, all right, like, this is my career. So I just have to be ready at all times, unfortunately, but also like I'd almost rather be over prepared than under prepared.
Yeah.
Like I think about the girls who are always like, their family's always protecting them and they're instantly married or whatever. But the like sad reality is you never know. It just takes walking down the wrong street once and that's it,
Yeah.
And so it's kind of, I mean, one thing is for sure, American girls, at least in the cities, are some badass bitches, especially performer girls.
Yeah.
I feel like the sexier the girl, the more hardcore she is.
Yeah.
Because you have to be. Which is why, too, having a strong partner who's secure in himself to handle your job and to not like worry about you and to trust you.
Yeah.
But also strong enough to protect you, because, they just got to know, dating a girl in this industry, the girl can be the most loyal girl in the world, but she's going to have so many men coming after her from one place or another, whether the street or DMs or whatever, that like, you got to be able to protect your girl, And that's something that, that is like most attractive to me, I think, is having a man that can protect you. So sounds like too, that's important to you too. If you have you noticed the difference? Like, do you feel better now if you've dated guys who like you still had men approaching you when you were with them versus now dating your fiance now?
I feel like I felt safe on my own and I didn't feel like I needed that ever from like another person to protect me necessarily. But then like once I had it, like I saw the difference and like the calm that comes over me and like the feeling like I don't have to be on like high alert at all times.
Yeah.
But I also feel like I mean I'm bi and I've like dated like different types of people and I feel like it's not even necessarily about like the strength or like the stature or even like the gender always. I feel like it's
That's
also like
yeah.
an energy, a vibe of like you're not fucking with me, kind of thing. Like is also really valid too.
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, you can have like a short king, like
no, that's very true.
Gonna protect you just as well,
Yeah.
I feel like it's not just about like the stature and the fitness and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Though I know that's what's definitely helping with
for sure
my guy for sure.
Yeah. I mean, well, that's a good point. Like I've even been out with like my best friend where like she almost got in a fight with somebody in the bathroom because I forgot my ID. And some girls in the bathroom were like, oh, some dumb bitch forgot her ID. And my best friend was there and heard, and she was like, excuse me? And even that, I think just having people around you who have your back, and like, I just love like feisty people who like, you don't fuck with my circle, basically.
Yeah.
Whether best friends, boyfriend, husband, like just having that protective energy is...
Isn't it crazy how like you will like fight so hard for like the people you love, but like for yourself it like might not be the same.
It's so wild.
Like the crazy, like my friends have done like the craziest shit, like defending me, like same thing. And like I would do the same for them, but like I feel like when it comes to myself, I'm not always gonna give that same energy when it comes to defending myself.
I think it's like a form of self-love too, and like it's easy to love others sometimes, but it's harder to love ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's why my dog saved my life, really, because in my marriage, I just kind of accepted my fate. It was like, well, I committed to this man for life, so like just I'm gonna put up with it, you know. And there was like a distinct moment when we were fighting, and I looked in his eyes, and I was like, oh, I'm not gonna make it to 30, you know.
Isn't it interesting how it just like takes like one moment?
Yeah, yeah, and you just realize.
Yeah.
But the thing was, even in that moment, I would have, like, I'm undyingly loyal, like to a fault, and I would have stayed. But then when I had her and there were signs and things happening, that was when I was like
you felt like you needed to protect her.
Yeah, I was worried about her.
I feel like that's such a thing with like when people become mothers. Sometimes that happens. They don't have the strength to leave an abusive relationship until they have their own child.
Yeah.
Sounds like it's kind of similar for you.
Yeah, that's exactly what. Yeah, and I think that was it too, because we had been talking about kids and he wanted them, and I was like, not yet. And having her, you know, I just kept thinking, what if this was a human also? And even in raising her on my own, there's so many times I've looked at her and I'm like, I am so happy you're not an actual person. Because even with her, you know, she, like, you know, you saw her barking just now, but she has trauma too, you know. It was traumatic for both of us. And and that's why finding the right partner is so, people are always asking me, and I hate this question. Well, and I keep my personal life very private. Like, you know, it's rare that I show that I'm dating somebody, and I keep it private until I'm like very sure that it's gonna go somewhere. But you know, that's why to, like, the partner you choose is so important. And I hate when people ask me, like, you know, oh, you're so beautiful, you could have any man you want, why don't you have a boyfriend? And people are always like, why don't you have a boyfriend? Why don't you have a boyfriend? Well, because like it has to be the perfect person for me, because I already have my life set up. You just have to add to it. And if you're not adding to it, like, why am I going to commit to you? And why do I need to have a boyfriend? You know, like, until I'm with that person that I am completely in love with, that I see a life with and adds value to my life in some way. And like, for me, that's not necessarily like financially either. It's like, you know, if you make me feel valued and protect me or something, then it's like, it's worth it for me. But like, if not, like, I'm not going to take that risk, because, you know, you could get pregnant and then you have a whole life on your hands. And that's so important to think about. And I feel like a lot of people, they're just like, well, I'm just going to have a boyfriend because I can have one. But like, you're slowly intertwining your entire life with somebody. So like, that's not a decision to take lightly. Yeah. And it's like, if you're going to be with somebody, make sure it's the person you want to be with.
Absolutely.
You know, I have one just to have one.
Yeah. Take your time.
Yeah. Because, you know, you if you end up with a dependent dog or child, you're only 50% responsible, especially with a child. Like, it doesn't matter how much you love your child, it takes another 50%. Yeah. And you're not in control of that 50%. So you have to choose it wisely. Yeah. So
yeah, I think like knowing that I do want to have kids someday has definitely made me force myself to be extra picky with partners. Yeah. And really make that, not take that decision lightly. Yeah. I think I've been in emotional and physically abusive relationships in the past, and sometimes I wonder if I would have stayed longer if like I didn't have that thought in the back of my brain being like, what would this be like with kids?
Yeah, definitely.
I think that definitely helps when you like, because I feel like it helps you like take yourself out of it a bit. Yeah. And like look at it from like an outside perspective of like, is this working? Yeah. As like a unit.
Definitely.
And even just like beyond like abuse and all of that kind of stuff, just like, is this relationship going to work? Is this like realistic? Yeah.
That's an important thing to consider. That's why she's like kind of my number one test. So like, when it's very rare that I choose to bring a man into my life, but when I do, she's the number one test. Like, because she's such a big personality too, but she kind of took her personality after me. So I'm like, well, seeing how they handle her, how they treat her, you know, it's so important to me, because to me that's the mark of like, if we had a kid, how would you be with them? You know, and that was like the big moment for me. I remember the first time my ex like screamed in her face, and she was just a puppy, and I was like, if you can yell at something that cute and innocent,
That's crazy.
it's scary. It's really, really scary. So
Ooh,
yeah.
I don't like animals.
I know.
I love animals.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Like, you gotta keep that temper in check and know how to handle your own emotions, or else don't bring somebody else into your life until you can. So, heavy note to switch on, but I do want to open it up and see if we have any questions from a male audience, especially after something like that.
Yeah, sure. Kind of going back towards the beginning, the dancing thing. So I was wondering, what were some, in your experience, what are some big differences between like the negative or toxicity and dancing in like the school culture versus like in the real like professional?
I feel like it all is the same kind of issues. Honestly, I think they just get more heightened when you're in the actual industry versus like school. I mean, like the body issues still come up, like all of the politics,
Yeah.
like it's all there when in competition dance and school and all of that. I'm sure everywhere in the world in the dance community, but I feel like it's like just on X Games mode.
Yeah.
Once there's money involved,
Yeah.
and there's clout involved of like who worked with who and all of that kind of thing, I feel like it's just even crazier. I mean, moving out to LA, and then I mean my first audition was why does Lady Gaga keep coming up? My first audition was a Lady Gaga music video when I first moved out to LA, and it was so grueling. It was all day. It was like 8 a.m. I don't think I got done until midnight.
Wow.
It was crazy.
Oh
There
my
was
God.
like so many cuts. It was wild. I got through to the very end, and I was like so excited. I was like, this is why I moved here. I want to work with Lady Gaga. I'm so excited.
Oh my God.
It's my first audition. Yay.
Yeah.
And then the very end of the audition, they did typecasting at that point.
Oh no.
And they literally like pointed to each corner of the room and they were like, Asians go in that corner, black girls go in that corner, blondes in that corner. Like it was just like, and then they just like took pictures of us and we're like, okay, we'll see. And I never got a call. But yeah, it was just like very jarring to come to LA and be like, oh, this is what we're doing. There's so much more. It's so much more about your image than it even was before. Because it always is.
Yeah. Yeah.
In performance, there's always some element of what you look like.
Yeah.
But coming to LA, it's just very jarring to be like, getting lined up in a row.
Yeah.
And just like being like,
cattle.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I have I've always had body issues. I feel like anyone who's in the dance industry has at some point or another, like to some degree. But coming to LA, I mean, I've had people, at my smallest, I've been told that I'm too big for jobs.
Oh my God.
So like that is like so jarring, you know?
Yeah.
Especially if you're already triggered by that and stuff. But I mean, that all goes into like what I was talking about before of like feeling like I'm, trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. It's like, just even when I was like killing myself to like fit a certain demographic, a certain look, a certain body type, even, at my very best, my leanest, it just never was enough. And I think burlesque has helped me become more confident in my body, more comfortable in my body, it gives me a place where my body is celebrated all the time. I mean, when I'm thinner or thicker, I still get the same amount of love, And I have so many people coming up, so many women DMing me or coming up to me at shows talking about how I've inspired them to like love their body and feel sexy in their body.
Wow.
Because I'm not this like super skinny body type that is seen a lot. And I really thought when I first started burlesque, I was like, this is great. This is going to inspire me to like not eat and be so fit.
Oh
and I
my
like, because like I'll have
gosh.
the pressure of like
Yeah.
being naked in front of an audience. So I'm like, this is going to be, just like feeding into the eating
Oh
disorder.
no.
And it did the opposite.
Wow.
And
wow.
I'm
That's great.
so glad that happened.
Yeah. That's why I love burlesque. You get
Yeah.
celebrated for who you are.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful art form.
Mhm.
It's a very healing art form.
Yeah.
I think people don't realize. They just are like, oh, you're a stripper. And it's like, no, this is like an art form where women are just celebrated. And that's why I think it's so cool. Our audience, it's not a bunch of sleazy men. It's primarily like middle-aged couples. It's just people who get it. And it's very classy. And it's just about celebrating women, and it's beautiful. And men too sometimes, but
Yeah.
mostly women.
Yeah.
So, what other questions do you have?
So where do you guys? I know Alyssa, you mentioned earlier that you're not the biggest fan of teaching, but where do you see like an end goal for dance? Would you ever want to become an instructor yourself at all? How do you?
I've taught kids a lot in the past. I enjoy it, but I do prefer performing, and I feel like teaching will always be there. So I feel like I'm like not in a rush. To do that. And I used to teach a lot of fitness. It really was like I got too many performance opportunities to keep teaching.
Yeah.
I had to keep getting subs, and I just like slowly phased out of teaching. But I used to do it a lot. And I loved it. The kids are great. It's so fun. Love teaching adults too. But yeah, it's not like been something I'm like in a rush to do, because I feel like it'll always be there.
Yeah.
I feel like I can teach, until I'm 80, So
Yeah.
I feel like, I can perform now.
Yeah.
It's just not my focus right now.
Yeah. I think people have this idea that you perform and then you go into teaching, but I think you can teach until you can perform. I feel like is more generally the route it should be, and it usually is for people who become successful performers. I know for me, I will never be a teacher. People ask me for privates, and I give them a very high rate because that's not my calling or my destiny or my path. I'm transitioning right now to prepare for my next step, which is going to be either I was just in a couple of movies that are going to be coming out soon. So
Congrats.
Thank you. Moving into the acting direction.
Yeah.
And then this hasn't been announced yet, but I think I can share. I am in the process of developing my own live show and my own docuseries as well. So
that's amazing.
Thank you.
What's the docuseries about? Is it about building the show? Is it connected?
Yeah, we've been rewriting it. It's actually been, I think, 2 years now since the idea was brought to me.
Okay.
And so it's been a long process because, TV, film, all that I'm learning is not like, oh, we're doing a show today and you're getting hired and then you do it and it's done. It's like a constant, like you have to figure out the logistics, the finances, you're rewriting, you film something, you toss the whole thing out, you have to refilm. So we're 2 years now into it. And we just rewrote it again. We filmed what we thought was going to be episode 1, tossed the whole thing. We have the sizzle reel though, and the sizzle reel is incredible. But yeah, I see my path going more in like directing, acting, writing on film. I do love mentoring though. I don't like teaching. I love to mentor. So if I ever did anything in the realm of teaching, it'd be more like more of an agency where I'm like teaching you how to make money and maybe taking a cut of that versus like actually like teaching, you know, you know, yeah. So that's a little sneak peek too of what I have coming up. Yeah, it'll be cool. It'll be cool. I can't wait to drop the sizzle reel, but I want to wait until we actually know what we're doing.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Move in the shadows.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, maybe like one or two more questions.
So you guys both talked about how sometimes you feel safer when there's like a guy with you who has like more of a protective energy, but sometimes you guys have to. This is like LA, which is like a huge city. You guys talked about downtown LA earlier. Are there ever times when you're in like another town and you feel because you've been in LA and you've been in kind of situations where you have to be on guard that being in smaller towns it's not such a big deal? Or how does working in LA professionally make you feel when you transfer to other places?
I can definitely speak to that. 2 years ago, I went on tour in Australia, and you know, we were on a ship, so we would get off in a different country every day.
Cool.
And I just remember all the Australians were always like, America is so dangerous. It's so, I don't know how you survive out there. And I was like, what are you talking about? Because it's just so normal to me. I'm like, what? And then I came back. And I just remember, like, in my first couple months back, I remember, like, crossing the street and there's, like, a napkin of blood. And then, like, one time I was, like, on my way to rehearsal and, like, I turned the corner and, like, these policemen were coming down with a shotgun. And then I turned the corner again and there was a dead body on a gurney. Because I guess somebody had
so desensitized.
Like, yeah, and I was like, oh.
Oh, my God.
And then, you know, the gunshots you hear all the time. Even, like, just a couple weeks ago, I was working at Keys and I was waiting for my Uber. I swear, 2 blocks down, like 2 doors down, 11 gunshots went off and nobody flinched. I kept looking. I was like, is anybody going to scream or run? Like nobody did it. Everyone was just like on their phones, like, oh. And I was like, and then I got into my Uber and he was like, did you hear those gunshots? And I was like, yes! Did nobody else hear them? Like, nobody reacted at all. And I was like, okay, I guess I see what the Australians are saying. Like, it really is the Wild West out here.
I'm in the valley, so it's like way chiller than that. Jeez. But like, I will say it's gotten worse for sure.
Yeah.
Like it's definitely like bleeding over into the valley for sure. And I live like pretty close to like a bus station and train station and stuff. And it's been getting a little crazy.
Interesting. I do feel like we were just talking about this. When I first moved here, there was a whole homeless encampment right next door and they were pouring into the street, like couches, they'd start fires, like it, you know, you'd come to drive into the parking lot, just like homeless people like going, like crossing right in front of your car while you're driving.
Yeah.
They cleaned all that up. It's gotten, it's now, they did a mural on the wall. Now they tore the building down completely.
Where'd they go?
I think they pushed them, they're pushing them all towards you.
Yeah, that's right.
It's actually cleaned up
all at
tremendously.
NoHo Park.
Yeah. So sorry about that. Coming to you now. I always tell people, I'm like, LA makes me believe in zombies. I feel like we're in zombie land.
Yeah, it feels like that.
It's wild.
That's kind of how the valley feels. It's like there's not like a lot of like gunshots and things like that, like violence on that level. But then there will just be someone who you can just tell by the look in their eyes they are on another planet.
Yeah.
And they're wielding a machete.
Yeah.
Just like running around.
Yeah.
It's just like everything's like really chill, and then there's just that random.
It's
we're all just
so
supposed
weird.
to act like it's normal.
Okay. Yeah.
But I do feel like I'm from Arizona.
Okay.
And it's like very suburbs kind of area, but desert. So like I did not grow up with that at all. Not any of the city life kind of stuff. You know?
Okay.
Not a lot going on. Then I moved straight to Philly, and it was very jarring.
Yeah, I bet.
Even more than what it is here, for sure. Of like,
wow,
what you get in Hollywood. I mean, I've been mugged. Like, I've had friends like mugged at gunpoint. just like walking home from school. It
Oh
was
my
just it was just
God.
very normal to know that it just like wasn't safe.
Yeah.
And I definitely got hardened very quickly living there.
Oh, I'm
very
sure.
on guard. And I like it really turned me into a bitch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I moved to
100%.
LA and I was just like I still feel like I am like just so unfriendly.
Yeah, you have
Everywhere
to
I go.
be. You have to be. I've been thinking about
And
this
like
a lot.
I'm like actively trying to like lighten up in certain
Yeah.
situations and like really clock when I'm safe and when I can turn that on and off,
Yeah.
because it kind of like I feel like for so long like I moved to LA and it's like I'm not even making small talk with the guy, like the barista.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I'm so like
yeah.
in survival mode, and I feel like that it just really carried over from living in the city and feeling like I just have to be on guard and going to my destination and really feeling like I don't know, kind of that unhinged level too of like that late night like
Yeah.
someone like goes to hit
You
on
want
you.
to fight me? Yeah.
Like just like
Yeah, just like my dog.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
yeah, no, it's so true. I've lived here for 2 years now, to the point where like I walk down Hollywood Boulevard and like run into people I know, and it's like very like neighborhood feeling. But it sucks because I want to be the neighbor that smiles and is like, hello, hi, how's it going? But I'll start getting friendly with like, you know, the street vendors or even my neighbors. And then I'm constantly reminded I cannot be friendly, especially with my job and like,
I
you
always
know,
regret being friendly.
yeah. I'll start being friendly, and then I instantly have to clock it back, go back to being a bitch, and it's like, I'm sorry, I know I was smiling and saying hello, but like, I'm already seeing in your eyes that this is going to become a problem. So I have to like barely acknowledge you, just the smallest, if even. It's really unfortunate. It's especially if you're a sweet, kind girl. You can't be, you know, you can't be in the city. It's fun. All right, last question.
Yeah, so when you were first wanting to get into dance, you said a big inspiration or goal, or long-term goal, was to work with Lady Gaga. So, like, do you still feel? How do you feel now, looking back at that like old dream and the emotions associated with that? How do you reflect on that? Because I think a lot of people have like an artist in their mind that they want to work with, as far as like, oh, now I made it. This is the dream come true. So, how do you feel about that same goal now that you have more experience in the industry working on?
I feel like I understand more now how the industry functions, and I feel way more accepting of like what's meant for me is going to come.
Yeah.
And if something doesn't happen, I don't feel the need to like try to force something that isn't just like coming to me naturally. Yes, I work hard. Yes, I like look for opportunities, but like I feel like I've let go of the idea of like needing to have certain things work out. I feel like the fact that I didn't do those certain things is because it wasn't meant for me. And honestly, when I have worked on like dance industry jobs, like in like that commercial world, it never feels like it's for me.
Yeah.
But just like anything I've done like within the dance industry where like I'm working with industry dancers, like in the commercial world, I've never felt like I belonged or that I was really having fun or living my dream.
Yeah.
It always felt like either I don't fit into like whatever culture this is that kind of feels like kind of like trying to sit with the popular group when you're not that. I don't know. Not to say that like there's wrong with like people in the dance industry. Just I never felt like I fully fit in with like the group.
It's a hard
kind
industry.
of thing. Or the vibe is super toxic and stressful and unfun. So I feel like experiencing that has made me feel like I can like let go of that. Like the dream isn't even what I thought it was anyways.
Yeah.
I mean, the horror stories I've heard from like certain tours and choreographers and things like that, I feel like sometimes it's a blessing in disguise. And I
For
don't
sure.
think I would have found burlesque or acting or like the other avenues that I'm going into if I had gone on a world tour.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Definitely. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I feel like I'm just kind of leaning into like what's working for me and what's for me. And I feel content with that now.
Yeah. I get you. I like Cirque du
So I have
Soleil.
to cut out.
Oh.
I sent an NDA.
Okay. If you can remember that.
Just
Okay.
Yeah. You can take that.
Oh yeah. There we go.
Keep
Perfect.
them guessing.
Yeah. Who was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like Cirque du Soleil was my dream, and I have friends in there, and I've realized I would not have been happy.
The injuries I've heard.
The injuries, you sign your whole life to them for 2 years usually, and I'm such a free spirit. It's like you said, what's meant for you will come to you, and sometimes what you wanted so bad isn't what you thought it would be anyway. So it's
and I feel like so much of the time, I feel like I need to clock like, what is my intention? Is my intention to have a bragging right? To name drop? Oh, I worked with this person. Oh, I did this job. Oh, I did that job. Or is it my goal to actually enjoy what I'm doing?
Yeah, live your life and be
Because
happy
a lot of
with it.
the stuff that like sounds really cool isn't so fun.
Yeah,
And it's actually really grueling and really hard or really toxic.
and not enjoyable either.
Yeah. And I feel like being your own boss and being able to work this night if I feel like it, not that night if I don't feel like it.
Quality of life.
And take care of yourself and not be doing the same exact shit every single day, doing like a show like Cirque du Soleil.
Yeah. Same show for 2 years. No.
Yeah.
Not able to do
Just
any
to
other
say, like,
shows.
I worked with Cirque du Soleil.
Yeah. I gave away 2 years of my life.
Yeah.
No, thank you. Awesome. Well, on that note, I think we're going to wrap it up. But thank you so much for coming. It was lovely having you.
Me.
Yeah, this is great. Yay, good. I'm glad.
Yeah.
And we'll see you in 2 weeks for another episode.
Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, yes. Thank you for coming.